Hi, so you're thinking about having weight loss surgery, bariatric surgery, or perhaps you're already scheduled or had it already, and you've just been looking for videos on before and after stories with someone that's had weight loss surgery, specifically in my case, Roux-en-Y gastric bypass. So you've come to the right place. I made this video so that I could walk you through a little bit of my story before and after. It might be in multiple parts, but nonetheless, we're going to try to dive in. If you're new to me, my name is Sonia in Cyber, and as I mentioned, I had Roux-en-Y gastric bypass on 9/6/23. At the time of this recording, I'm about 5.5 months post-op. I am down around 83, 84 pounds, and I have been feeling great, baby. I will tell you right now, it is by far the best decision I've ever made for myself and my health. I'll give you the best part up front. This was absolutely the best decision that I've ever made for myself, particularly as it relates to my health, my body, my weight, my future. So let me back up a bit in terms of my background. I would say that my background is a little bit different from a lot of people that end up having weight loss surgery. And that is because I haven't been obese or super overweight or anything like that for all of my life. Growing up when I was young, and I'll try to drop some pictures into this video, but growing up, I was very active and I was always a little lanky and tall, even as a very young child into my teens. I was a cheerleader. I played softball. I tried soccer. I was a football trainer. I mean, you name it. I even played basketball. I was involved in all kinds of sports. I was always outside because, this was during the times when we weren't all stuck on cell phones. We actually spent pretty much all of our time outside. And so I was always doing something. I also was living out of the country. I grew up in Germany. And so the food was very different because regulations are different there. And I would say of a higher quality and with a lot more control. So not as many preservatives and a bunch of extra fillers, who knows what, in some of this food that we now are confronted with here in the US. But because of that, I was always able to maintain and manage a healthy weight. And even into my 20s, I was still in what I would say a healthy weight range for me. I felt good. I was active. I liked to cycle. The one thing I did not do very well was take care of myself and love myself enough to make healthy decisions. I was eating a lot of junk. I love to party. I love to go out. And so there were just all of these things that were contributing to, no matter what, even with or without weight, me just not living a very healthy lifestyle. It was pretty chaotic. And so even through my 20s, I still, for the most part, was very happy with my weight. It wasn't until I hit my 30s that things really started to hit the fan, because what started to happen then was I started having really irregular periods, or periods that wouldn't come at all. And then I also was having problems with like really bad adult acne, and I was putting on more and more weight. I was starting to get like the traditional moon face. I wasn't feeling well. And I had all of these different things going on that were just pointing more and more towards the fact that like something was wrong or off. And for the longest, for several years, I tried my best to like put in a good fight against the weight that I was starting to slowly accumulate. And that was by trying different things like natural diet and exercise. I tried a lot of different ways, like the more traditional ways to lose weight, and even some controlled programs and things like that that were physician monitored or supervised. And none of that really worked. And then in addition to that, I wasn't really in healthy relationships. I was not in a healthy place myself to even have a really great functioning one. So that was one big piece of that. And I felt like food was like an escape and comfort that I needed during those times. So I would always eat. I loved to eat. It brought me so much joy. It was like a hobby. Like I really felt like when I was going to eat, it was an adventure. And that was a big piece of my relationship with food at the time. I always associated my eating and food with like social activities and social connection. And so again, I just didn't really choose good things. On top of that, from an economic standpoint, I really wasn't in a great place either. And so going through like fast food and getting the dollar menu and things like that was just a lot easier. Now in my 30s, I started to have multiple health issues. I had PCOS, which took several years for us to diagnose, which obviously also caused me to basically be infertile for all of those years. And I was also having really bad skin issues, and I was keeping weight on from that. Then I had thyroid issues, so I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism. I had high blood pressure, sleep apnea, to the point where they were prescribing me a CPAP. I had obviously obesity because I was overweight and was continuing to get larger and larger. I had vein insufficiency in my legs. I had adult acne really, really, really bad. I continually had issues with with other things that would pop up. So needless to say, all the health issues just started to stack up one on top of the other. And the bigger part that started to scare me even more was the fact that my weight was just continuing to trickle up. A lot of that was directly correlated to the amount of stress that I was feeling in my life, because a couple of things happened that were pretty hard to like weather and get through during my 30s. One of those things was my grandmother getting really, really sick in Germany, me going over there to become her full-time caregiver for 2 years before we brought her here to the US, and then her having a stroke not long after that and being diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. So we took her in, we kept her with us for around 10 years here in the US, from the very beginning stages of the Lewy body dementia to the end, to the very last breath that she took. She was in my mother's household at that time. And so I was constantly having to try to like reinvent myself, get back on my feet, find new work, stop working so that I'd be able to like work around that. And it was just a very hectic and stressful period. On top of that, we were very short with money. And so that obviously adds another layer of stress. And so that was a lot of stress that was happening there. On top of that, I was in some pretty bad relationships, even involving domestic violence. And that in itself took its toll on me. I had some very deceptive people that I got connected with and was just having some very unhealthy connections romantically with people during that time, which was very difficult for me to also manage and work through. In addition to that, for me with work, not only because of all the things going on with my grandmother, but the economy was also going a little haywire. And so I ended up during the recession, the first time, like back in 2008, and then in those years following, I lost my job multiple times within months of each other. And I ended up with hardly anything, like very financially strapped. And so there was just a lot going on that was causing me a lot of pain and a lot of problems, which then resulted in me wanting to eat more and drink more. And this all continued through to the pandemic happening in 2020, which is again when more stress came along and I was still drinking and just not really doing the greatest things for myself. And then somewhere in there in 2020, like a light bulb really went off and I said, okay, enough is enough. I'm about to approach my 40s. I really need to get my ish together. And that's exactly what I did. So I really buckled down. I got rid of anything that was unhealthy in my life. I disconnected from any relationships that weren't serving me. And I started to focus only on me, my life, my professional future, and like really transformed all aspects of my life, including my professional life. And it's been nothing but on an upward trajectory since then. And from a health perspective, I also tried to get myself in line from a health perspective. I stopped drinking. I was trying to exercise. And what I found, no matter what I was doing, I still was not losing the weight, which was very concerning to me. I knew some other things were going on. And then unfortunately, right in my early 40s, I ended up being diagnosed with kidney cancer. And then during the surgery, which was a partial nephrectomy to remove my tumor, I ended up getting injured. And so I ended up having a temporary ileostomy placed that was later reversed. And though I lost weight during the cancer fight, after that, I ended up regaining it with a vengeance. Now, during those same years is like when GLP-1 drugs and Wegovy became very popular and was being pushed by the media. And so I did try Wegovy before my kidney cancer and had success to lose 60 pounds. However, as soon as I stopped Wegovy in preparation for my cancer tumor treatments, I ended up regaining all of the weight pretty much with the exception of like 10 pounds with a vengeance. I was even more hungry than I was before Wegovy. However, because I had some success, I did decide after like I was past my kidney tumor removal by a couple of months that I would try Wegovy again. But unfortunately at that time, because I was taking Synthroid or levothyroxine, it ended up interacting with my Wegovy and I ended up gaining weight. And so then I knew like this is not going to work for me. And during that time, which is the last year or two, I did have several surgeons that came to me that suggested that I should consider weight loss surgery or bariatric surgery. And every time they did, I would just kind of scrunch up my face and go, no, that's not for me, because my only point of reference were negative ones. I only thought of like the celebrities from 20 years ago that ended up not even looking like themselves and looking too skinny in my eyes. Or I thought about, no, this is something that only older people do or people that are much heavier than me do. And I'm like, I can't do this. This isn't the right thing for me. And it wasn't until after about 3 different surgeons brought it up to me and I failed again with Wegovy that I then was like, okay, maybe I seriously do need to start looking into this. And then I did. And so I'm going to make a lot more videos where I dive into like what that looked like. How did I research it? How did I decide that Roux-en-Y gastric bypass was the right thing for me? But I just want to let you know that deciding to have gastric bypass was by far the best decision that I have ever made for myself and my health and my future. I feel better than ever. I'm back to the size that I was as a teenager going into early college student. I feel fabulous, high energy. I'm learning how to eat in a much healthier way, and I have a whole new relationship with food. Instead of living to eat, I'm now eating to live. Food is really seen as more of a fuel for me. I'm not overindulging. I'm not constantly thinking about food and everything and just completely consumed with cravings, because those are all things that were happening before. What I learned was that I needed gastric bypass, the tool of gastric bypass, because that's all it is, a tool. It is your responsibility to make that tool work for you. You have a lot of things that you have to do to be able to be successful with the surgery, but assuming that you do, it will help you unleash a whole different way of your body working and functioning. For me, it was what I needed to finally shed all the effects of the PCOS and the hypothyroidism that I'd been carrying for years. I ended up being able to finally start dropping the weight and start dropping the weight fast. And it's been quite the journey. I'm not going to lie. It was hard. It is still hard. It is still something where you have to commit yourself fully to be able to do it successfully. And you have to discipline yourself to be able to do it successfully. But if you do, I promise you, you can't even imagine where you will end up after this surgery. I had a lot of fears before I went into this surgery, especially as it related to food, because I was just so addicted to it, especially sugars and carbs. I was like, I'm going to be grieving. I can't believe I won't be able to eat these foods anymore. And the thing is, you will still be able to eat these foods, just differently, in moderation. Less, smaller portions, and you won't be dreaming about them all the time. So just know it's a change to your life, not a prison sentence. There's so many benefits to having this surgery, and I will absolutely make lots of content here on YouTube where I walk through those benefits, things to do, things not to do, and all kinds of content like that as it relates to weight loss surgery. I'm gonna end the video here. That's just a peek at basically some of my story. I'll definitely make some more videos where I dig deeper into this, but again, my name is Sonia in Cyber. I'm all about living fully and happily as best as you can, no matter your circumstance, and I try my best to teach and inspire others to do the same. I'm here on YouTube now so that I can really motivate and inspire you, whether you're facing or considering weight loss surgery, or if you're just up against challenges in your life. Make sure that you're subscribed and hit that bell so you can be notified when new videos come out. If there are specific topics you would love for me to talk about, whether that's for bariatric surgery or for something else, make sure you leave me a comment. And with that, I will wish you guys well, and I will see you on my next video.